If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know I have a soft spot for mascot platformers. They are one of my favorite genres of games, I guess because I grew up with so many mascot platformers like my boy Crash. They've kind of just become one of my favorite game genres, even though I don't probably play enough of them anymore. PlayStation are currently running a hot deal sale. They kind of do these every couple of weeks, like every fortnight or once a month type of thing. This one here, I thought I'll break it down slightly differently and look at the mascot platforming games that I recommend from this sale. So there are 9 games that we'll be covering off here that are all platformers of some sort that I do recommend that I want to talk about. So let's talk about it. So obviously we couldn't get past this without talking about Crash Bandicoot, one of the absolute OGs in terms of the platforming genre. Crash Insane Trilogy is $20, 50% off, which is pretty standard for that game. It does get down to that price point kind of frequently. There are a couple of other bundles. Crash, we can get like CTR or Crash 4, and they get down to like that $30 to $35 price point. So if you're looking for like a more comprehensive Crash bundle, that's there. This still plays and works exceptionally well, and I actually go back and play the Crash Insane Trilogy like once a year. So if you're looking for some like classic, really classic mascot platforming, OG mascot platforming from Crash, then this is a great option to pick up. If you're a younger gamer and you don't know what Crash is all about, absolutely buy this. It is kind of gaming 101 in my personal opinion, alongside Castlevania Symphony Night and Mario 64. Crash is an OG. Alongside Crash, we have Spyro Reignited Trilogy. This is down to $14. Again, it's weird that Spyro gets discounted more. I guess it's not as popular as Crash. Maybe Crash holds a higher price point because it does sell pretty well at that price point. Spyro, again, is a more, instead of being like a corridor platformer like Crash is, more of an open world, or like semi-open world collectathon platformer, similar to like a Banjo-Kazooie or a Mario 64. Actually, probably a lot more like Mario 64 now that I think about it. Spyro, again, is another OG though. Absolutely worth checking out. A lot of gamers probably familiar with Spyro because he has gone through the ages between like the PS2 era and Skylanders and things like that. He has kind of stuck around a bit longer than Crash did because he kind of died and came back. But Spyro is good, definitely worth checking out there. And like it's just a simple and colorful game that's worth checking out. You got the Jak and Daxter bundle as well. Now don't let this one fool you, it is a PS2 game on the PS4. They did this initiative really like a couple of years ago now where they brought a bunch of PS2 games to the PS4 and it seemed like it was going to become a thing and then they just stopped doing it. So this isn't actually a remaster or a remake, and it is kind of flawed in that sense, but it does include all 4 Jak games. Jak 1, Jak 2, Jak 3, and Jak X, the racing game spin-off type thing, which is still definitely canon in the Jak franchise. Now these aren't as good as the Jak collection or the Jak remastered collection on the PS3. Those are like enhanced and improved versions of the Jak and Daxter games, but that isn't available on PS4 because who knows why. So this is the best option we have if we want to play Jak and Daxter. The games are really good. If you've played Ratchet, it's kind of similar to that. You've got a mixture of like Crash DNA, Spyro DNA, and I'd say Ratchet and Clank DNA in here as well. Mixture of mascot platforming, like light RPG, and then action adventure game. It's weird, man, and you can see where Naughty Dog were going with this. Coming from the first one, it feels very similar to Crash, and then the last one kind of feels a lot more similar to Uncharted in terms of being an action adventure and more narrative driven as well. It's interesting to see that evolution across this franchise to where they came from and where they got to by the end of it as well. Intriguing. And again, a part of gaming history, if you haven't checked these out, I do just recommend doing it. Concrete Genie, which is a game that was free on PlayStation Plus. Probably less of a mascot platformer and more of a just kind of more of an adventure, an action adventure game, I would say, if I'm really cutting brass tacks. But it's not bad. It's a pretty chilled out adventure game. There's like these cool drawing mechanics. It has these cool like sort of bioluminescent effects in it. So the game looks really good with HDR on your television as well. Very simple, chilled out game to play. Got some pretty serious tones in there and actually a pretty serious narrative to it as well. But it's a nice little fun one to play as a bit of a palate cleanse between maybe like big AAA games. It's not like this massive thing, and it's probably not as good as Crash, Spyro, or Jak. But as a kind of modern day platformer action adventure game, it works pretty functionally and I think it's pretty good. Now this one here, I don't think I've ever really referred to in a video. Loco Roco. Loco Roco is super weird. It is unlike any other kind of platformer game that exists, except for maybe like a Katamari and kind of like the weirdness level of it. And younger gamers are probably not familiar with what this is. So this is a game that came out on the PSP, showing off like PSP functionality. It was like designed to use the back touchpads basically, or the back triggers on the PSP to utilize like the limited control scheme by and creating something kind of new with it by Japan Studios. You basically control these Loco Rocos, which are these little yellow guys, and you move them from left to right by tilting the screen. And then you can kind of join them to make them bigger or split them to make them smaller. And you have to get them from A to B while solving puzzles, doing some like minor platforming and things like that. The world is really gooey and kind of like jelly, and they kind of operate like jelly as well. So it's a little bit weird, but it's actually a fun game to play and a fun one to check out if you've not before. It's silly, and that's kind of the point. The music in this game, though, is exceptional. It has a fantastic soundtrack. Highly recommend checking it out for the soundtrack alone. Unraveled is another one of those like feel-good platformers. This one's more of a 2D side-scrolling mascot platformer, but this is like an EA game that they tried to kind of make into a thing. They made 2 of these games, in fact, which is genuinely surprising from an EA game. The games look great. They look and run exceptionally well, but it's always hard when you try and introduce a new mascot. And you would have seen it if you were around in the PS1 era as well, where it was really hard to just get a new platform off the ground. And so many of them died. Croc and Gex and all these other dudes just did not make the cut. It's hard. And in 2020 or 2021, I think Unraveled actually came out like 2018, it's even harder because the genre is just not as popular. This is a nice, simple, feel-good game. Pretty easy platinum trophy as well. It's $5. I recommend it for that. Scribblenauts Mega Pack is, this is another kind of weird one as well. It's another sort of cartoony style game. The cool thing about Scribblenauts, this was actually a Nintendo exclusive, if I do remember correctly, and it came across to the PlayStation a wee while after. The cool thing about Scribblenauts is that you can like write anything. You basically create objects by using your imagination. So you can kind of create anything to solve the puzzle. So like you'll come across different people in the game and they may need something. They may need you to help like eradicate a bat problem. And so to do that, you can just make an object appear, like a bat extermination spray or a bag to capture the bat in, or whatever. And whatever you come up with will just appear in the game, and then you can use that object to solve the problem. It's pretty cool. This is a mega pack, so it comes with 2 different Scribblenauts games, and yeah, it's a neat one that a lot of PlayStation gamers, I would say, probably slept on, given it was a Nintendo exclusive originally, so that's why I wanted to include it here. Psychonauts is another one of those like really classic action adventure, I guess it is a mascot game to a degree, that came out back in like the LucasArts era. It probably fits more into adventure game though, I would say, than platforming. Although there are like platforming elements in it as well. If you liked some of those older LucasArts adventure games, then I think you'll enjoy this. The kind of game I'd recommend you checking this out if you enjoyed is probably more like The Wolf Among Us or any of those Telltale, The Walking Dead, Batman style games. I think you'll probably enjoy Psychonauts if you enjoyed those games, because they kind of fit in a very similar genre or space. Tearaway Unfolded is, it's kind of a bit of a joke that we talk about. It's kind of like one of those really sub-tier PlayStation games that came out. But as a mascot platformer, it's actually really functional. The character is kind of cool. He's just not as cool as Crash, and that's the problem. I think if they made a way cooler protagonist in this game like Sackboy or Crash, it would have just been a better game. It's made out of paper. You're playing as basically an envelope getting delivered. And this was originally a Vita game that got ported to PS4. The Vita version was designed with a bunch of really like shoe-in tech features on the Vita to show off exactly what the Vita could do. The PS4 version kind of took that and did some stuff with the PS4 controller to do that as well. But it does work. It's a pretty competent mascot platformer. If you haven't checked it out, do check it out. It's only $10. Generally comes down to this price point pretty frequently, although this game doesn't actually go on sale that often, so it's worth mentioning too. There you go, bunch of mascot platformers, mascot games, adventure games. I guess it was kind of a bit of a mixture of things. Let me know which ones you're picking up in the comments down below, if any of these games. Don't forget to leave a like if you haven't, and subscribe if you're still waiting to subscribe. I would really appreciate that. That would be awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Patreons for September. I want to give you a warm thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to each and every one of you for keeping all the lights on here at Platinum Trophy HQ by supporting me either via Patreon or by a channel membership below. You will see your names over here next to me if you are a Patreon or a channel member. Thank you, each and every one of you. If you also want to support the channel and help keep the lights on over here, you can do that by hitting the link in the description down below and joining me on Patreon, or clicking the join button on YouTube just down below, and you get access to emotes and some other exclusive things there as well. Every single cent counts. Thank you all for the encouragement and continuing to support this channel so I can continue making great content. Thanks to all those watching, as well as all my extra special supporters.